Trump's new big bill is literally, we could be days, maybe a couple of weeks away from this passing. And if you're a real estate investor, you need to know how this is going to affect you. That's why in this video, I'm going to go over what you need to know, what accelerated depreciation is, how you can use it to build your wealth. Most importantly, what Trump's bill is going to do to the market. That's what a lot of people don't understand and why buying now is so critical. Let's start with just the big bill. There's more than just accelerated depreciation coming back. If you've been a real estate investor for the last few years, you should know that the short-term rental loophole, the ability for us to do a cost segregation study and accelerate the 27.5-year depreciation schedule on the piece of real estate that we're buying down to the individual components of like 130 different components inside of a house is the greatest tax benefit of our generation. Thank you, President Trump. Now, that has been sunsetting. This year, right now, you only get 40% of that depreciated value. Once this bill passes, we're going to have 100%. That is a huge deal for us. That means if you buy a $1 million property and you get 20%, which would be $200,000 in accelerated depreciation, and you fall into the 30% tax bracket, that's going to be a $60,000 to $65,000 tax break for you, dollar for dollar. So if that property does $100,000 in net income, you're literally only going to pay tax on $35,000 of that $100,000 in net income, because that $65,000 is going to offset that first $65K of earnings. That's what we really need to know about the accelerated depreciation. Now, there is a slight cost that comes to doing this. Sure, you can go and DIY this, but I sure as heck do not recommend that. You want to have a rock solid cost segregation specialist do your cost segregation for you. And in most cases, we're going to pay for insurance on that just in case they F it up, right? I want that protection personally, and I think you should as well. So the next step to this is that cost, depending on the size of your property, can run you between $1,500 to $2,000 up to $3,000 to $4,000 if you have one of those large 8, 9, or 10 bedroom properties and some acreage. So that's what accelerated depreciation is. That's how we in the short-term rental space take advantage of the short-term rental loophole. Remember, this is different than buying industrial real estate. This is different than buying commercial. There are great benefits there. We are not required to be a real estate professional. That's why now is critical, right? Let's talk about the timing, because this bill is going to be coming out. This is number 2. You need to start looking now, right? And one of the things that I think, it is such a tight market for sellers right now. Buyers, we have all the advantage. I would start looking for properties that have been on the market 90 days or longer. And if you can't find anything, once you run the Super Grader, I'll put the link down below. That's how you evaluate the comps in the market. And you run the Proforma, link down to my free Proforma in the comments. You need to start practicing now. If you wait until this bill passes, we are going to see a flood of estimated 3 to 5 million people jumping off the sidelines and getting onto the playing field with you. That's why I am currently under contract with 1 property. I was under 2 last week. I dropped out of 1, and I'm actively looking for a second one. The first one I'm looking to purchase that I'm under contract on is $2.7 million. And I've already sent, this is a critical part of this underwriting process, I've already sent my estimated renovation budget, the contract, to John Howard with CSSI, Cost Segregation Specialist International. He's one of the best in the industry. John's awesome. He will give me an estimate on what my benefit's going to be. That way I can add it to my Proforma. That is a huge deal for me. The last cost seg I did, I just got $620,000 in accelerated depreciation, and that was from 2024 with only 60% benefit. Think about what that would be if I do that this year. Well, this is about the same price house. This one's a little bit older. It's got about roughly the same amount of land value. That means I'm set to get a larger tax amount. I think it's like $775,000 to $825,000 based on what Bria and I do from a renovation standpoint. That is critical. Look, are you a short-term rental owner just like me? You could be a co-host, maybe even a property manager, and you struggle with the back end, the bookkeeping, the credit card reconciliation. Well, if you're not familiar with Baselane, you need to take a look at them, because that's completely changed my life and my relationship with QuickBooks. I don't know if I should say that or not, but literally, it's the bane of my existence.
Baseline has AI that's implemented, and it's made mine and my wife's, Bria's, life so much easier to take care of all of our properties, from a co-hosting side to the side that we own. It's an absolute game changer, and literally it's saving us thousands of dollars a month based on our time to have to reconcile our books. The AI feature is just absolutely sick inside of Baseline. Plus they have banking that goes along with it, and they give us 3.35% interest. They have debit cards. So now we can follow the asset protection and silo everything, right? Banking, bookkeeping, all in one spot. Dedicated debit card, 3.35%. What are you waiting for? I switched to Baseline, and I recommend you do too.
So one of the reasons that timing is critical now is it's going to take you some time to do the due diligence. You've got to research, you got to learn the market. You're going to go in, you're going to look for properties, you need to underwrite them, but you also want to beat the rush that's coming, that mad rush, that herd of people's coming. The other thing that I believe this is going to do, this new tax bill, is it's going to slowly start to implement the 10-year treasury. There's other tax benefits for us as entrepreneurs and business owners. Essentially, we're getting a 20% tax break. If we net $200,000, we're going to be able to take $20,000 out of that and only be taxed on 80% of that income. So that means we go down to 160. That is huge. Donald Trump, President Trump, is putting money back into our pockets as real estate investors, as entrepreneurs. That means people are going to have more cash to be able to invest. Now, if this thrust of 5 million people gets back into the real estate market, what do you think is going to happen to the 10-year treasury bill? What do you think is going to happen if entrepreneurs, small and large, are able to start spending more money, hiring more people, increasing wages with that additional 20%? That means that we should see interest rates start to matriculate down. And here's another data point for you, is if we go from 6.5% to 5.5%, that again is going to trigger another 4 to 5 million people getting into the real estate market. The psychological barrier of being under 6% will release homes into the market for those people that are at 4%, 3% that are looking to sell and upgrade. They've been holding on when interest rates, they've been afraid of the 7s, the 7.5s, and the 8s. But now we're going to see more inventory hit the market, which we will need, because if we see 5 million people come in because of the tax breaks, another 4 to 5 million come in as interest rates lower, now we're looking at battling 9 or 10 million additional people that we don't have right now. That's why I've said for the last 9 months, this is the best time to buy in our lifetime. And that is still present today. That's why I'm giving this information to you now, because I want you to get in before it becomes a you-know-what show like it was in 21 and 20, where we're having to bid $50,000, $100,000 over asking. We're having to waive appraisals. We're having to do all cash offers. That's not really what us as investors are looking for. That's why number 3, I think you should be looking to buy and at least starting to practice before the bill passes. And I've been saying this since this was introduced back in April, but now is the time. There is no question this bill is going to pass. No question. I mean, I can't 100% guarantee that, but I believe with 99.9% accuracy, this is going to pass. So get started now before the rush. Because once this happens, I don't know if it's going to take 60 or 90 days or 6 or 9 months, but we're going to see this market eventually flip to where it's going to go from a buyer's market to a seller's market. And I think that can happen relatively quickly. So get in now, grab my Super Grader down below, grab my Proforma down below if you don't have them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield.